Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to discuss Unit 11. It's Pricing Decision Block 4, Unit 11. And today we are going to discuss pricing under perfect competition and pure monopoly. As I have already told you that monopoly and pure perfect competition, these are two extreme market forms. Now, so the objectives of this particular the today's that is 11, is to describe the characteristics of the perfect competition and pure monopoly. And next is to identify the equilibrium conditions for a farm and the industry in a perfectly competitive market situation. We will also examine price output decisions under pure monopoly. Another objective is to analyze the relevance of perfect competition and pure monopoly. That is why we should study these two markets. We have noted that in the earlier unit that the number and size of farms is an important determinant of the structure of the industry and market. The behavior of a farm under two different market structures, that is perfect competition and monopoly, they are extremely different from each other, but these two are theoretical in nature. And but if we study these two markets, that will give us ideas about the other competitive markets and other markets which are towards monopoly. Now here, what exactly is crucial is the size of the constituent farms in relations to total industry's output. Now remember, always the assumption is that the farms are guided by profit motive. The farms always want to go for higher profit. Now let us come to characteristics of perfect competition. You know what is perfect competition, as I told you earlier, that there are a large number of buyers and sellers competing with each other in the purchase and sale of goods. Buyers purchase, sellers sell the goods, and no buyer or no seller has any influence over the price. They cannot change the price. So perfect competition is an ideal form of market structure in which there is the greatest degree of competition. That is why it is known as perfectly competitive market. So the main characteristics are there are a large number of independent, relatively small sellers and buyers also, large number of buyers also as compared to the market as a whole. No union is possible. Not anybody cannot have any kind of association to arrive at an understanding with regard to market demand or price or sales. That means no seller can go for kind of union, cannot form a union or cannot go for any association where it will decide what should be the price and demand or sales. Second point here is the second characteristic is the products those are sold by the sellers are homogeneous and identical. That means the consumers cannot differentiate it from the products. Product 1 is equal to product 2 is equal to product 3. If they are selling, suppose for example, in the market, the soap market is there. If there are large number of sellers and buyers, then I'm producing one and selling only one product, then the consumers cannot differentiate. Okay, that product has to be identical. So there should not be any differentiation of product by way of quality, variety, color, design, packaging, or other selling conditions of the product. What we studied in the lab yesterday, that products can be differentiated by the sellers, but the condition for perfect competition is that there is no chance, no room for product differentiation. Okay, so from the point of view of buyers, the product of competing sellers are perfectly substitutable. That means if I am a consumer, if I am buying it from seller number A, I'll be getting the same product if I am buying it from seller number B and C and so on. So for consumer, the products are completely substitutable. Now number 3, regarding the barrier to entry, there is absolutely no restriction on entry of new farms into the industry, and the existing farms are free to leave the industry. This means that in the long run, even in the long run, the number of farms would continue to remain large. and the relative share of each farm would continue to remain insignificant. Now, both the buyers, next fourth characteristic is that both the buyers and sellers in the market have perfect knowledge about the conditions in which they are operating. That means buyers know the price, buyers know about the product of the different sellers. Sellers also know the price and what the buyers are offering. That also is known by sellers. So both buyers and sellers have perfect knowledge about the market. The distance between the locations of competing sellers is not significant, and therefore the price of the product is not affected by the cost of transportation of goods. In other words, we can say that there is absence of transport cost is not taken into account, because if you are taking that into account, then the cost of production will be higher, then the seller will be thinking differently. So here what happens, the seller we don't consider the transport cost from the perspective of the buyers as well as from the sellers. Okay, now this is the table, number and size of the distribution of the sellers. You find many small sellers. No individual seller is able to exercise a significant influence over price. That means seller is a price taker. Number and size of the distribution of buyers. Many small buyers. No buyer is able to exert a significant influence over price. That means the buyer has to buy the product at the given price. Product differentiation, no product differentiation. The decision to buy are made on the basis of price only. Now, conditions of entry and exit, easy entry and exit, and resources are easily transferable among industries. There is one more thing also is there. There is a perfect mobility of factors of production from one product to another. That is also there. That is not there in the book, but that is another characteristics of perfect competition. The fact there is a perfect mobility of factors of production. Okay, so now it is very difficult to find a market that satisfy all the textbook conditions of perfect competition. Whatever we discussed is actually as per the textbook, but there are markets that come close to these conditions, close to these characteristics, or they are having that type of characteristics which are close to the ones we discussed, but none that is completely in synchronization with all of them. Sometimes we question, or one might question, the rationale of studying this market structure. If it does not exist in the real world, then why should we study? But the answer is that perfect competition is the ideal market, and it serves as a benchmark that or a measuring rod. Okay, so we can use the outcomes of other markets to compare with outcomes that would have been achieved under perfect competition. That means, had there been perfect competition, what would have been the situation? That is the idea behind the studying of perfect competition. It gives us a benchmark, or gives us a kind of situation in the economy, what is happening and what would have been, what can we improve, or what betterment we can do. That we will discuss later on in welfare economics. Okay, so for example, if the market is competitive, prices would be lower and closer to costs, while if the market is monopolized, then prices are likely to be higher. So if the market is more towards perfectly competitive market, then the price is low and price and cost difference will be low, and people will get things, or buyers can buy things at a lower price. For that reason, we study perfectly competitive market. Another useful comparison here is that we can compare the consumer surplus. Okay, so consumer surplus is can be thought of as the difference between the maximum amount the consumer is willing to pay for a product and the amount he actually pays. So basically, suppose I am ready to pay 100 rupees per kilo of apple. I go to the market and find that it is 50 rupees per kilo. I find it cheaper. So my consumer surplus is actually per kilo is rupees 100 minus rupees 50. I was willing to pay 100 rupees, but what I am actually paying is 50 rupees. That difference is known as consumer surplus. In perfectly competitive market, consumer surplus is always the maximum, while in monopoly market, it is the lowest. In fact, it is the endeavor of monopolies to capture as much of the consumer surplus as possible. They try to reduce the consumer surplus. The monopolists try to reduce the consumer surplus and they add it to their economic profit. So when a perfectly competitive industry gets monopolized, there is a transfer of surplus from the consumer to the producer. Now, profit maximizing output of a perfectly competitive farm in the short run. We'll discuss first perfectly competitive farm, then we'll go to monopoly because we are going to discuss only two types of markets today. Now, the short run we already know that is the period where at least one output is not changing or not output, at least one input is not changing or it is fixed. Often the capital is like if farm is using labor and capital, often labor is taken as the variable input and capital is taken as the fixed input. The assumption is that the number of production facilities in the industry and the size of each facility do not change because the period being considered is too short to allow farms to enter or leave the industry or to make any changes in their operations. So for short run, we have to assume that the number of production facilities in the industry and the size of each facility do not change because the period is very short so that nobody can enter into the market and change the situation. Since an individual farm cannot influence the market price, because we have already said that under perfect competition, seller is a price taker, is not a price maker. So since the individual farm cannot influence the market price by raising or lowering its output, the farm faces a horizontal demand curve, or which is AR curve, average revenue curve, and that will be horizontal. The the consumer's demand curve is the seller's average revenue curve. So it will be horizontal or it will be parallel to x-axis. Suppose this is y-axis and this is x-axis. You will find that this is parallel. That is average revenue. This is also equal to the demand curve. This is also equal to the demand curve. So the farm faces a horizontal demand curve, which is the average revenue curve. So the demand curve of any single farm is perfectly elastic. That is why it is parallel to x-axis. Its elasticity is equal to infinity at all levels of output. Now, a farm under perfect competition, as I have said, is a price taker. So if a farm charges a price, it cannot be a price maker. Why? Because if he charges a price slightly higher than the prevailing market price, the demand for that farm will fall to zero because there are many other sellers selling exactly the same product or selling identical product in the market. So the consumers will not buy from this particular seller, they will switch over to other sellers. So on the other hand, that is the situation when the farm is increasing the price. On the other hand, if a farm is reducing the price, then its demand will increase to infinity and thus other farms will match the low price. Because an individual farm's demand or average revenue curve is horizontal under perfect competition, the marginal revenue curve of the farm is also horizontal. Because what is marginal revenue? Marginal revenue is the additional revenue for one additional unit, for the production of one additional unit of output. Okay, and if average revenue is remaining same, that means total revenue divided by average revenue is what? Average revenue is uh, total revenue divided by total output, that is average revenue, and marginal revenue is equal to total revenue of nth unit of output minus total revenue of n minus nth unit of output. So if average revenue is constant, is equal to constant, say C, then total revenue, suppose you the production of 5 units of output, then that will become 5C. Total revenue will become 5C. Suppose total revenue is equal to, not total revenue, average revenue is equal to C, Total production of unit Q is equal to 5, then total revenue is equal to 5C. Now production is equal to 10, then total revenue is equal to 10C. So the change is only 5C. Change is only 5C, that is a constant. Let us take the example, instead of taking C, let us take 2. Then total revenue is equal to 10. After, when Q is equal to 10, total revenue is equal to 20. Now this is 5, this is 10. Difference is 20 minus 10 is equal to 10. Let us take Q is equal to 6. Then total revenue is equal to 12. So 10, 12 minus 10 is equal to average revenue. Q is equal to 7. Total revenue is equal to 14. So the gap is 2. And this is also marginal revenue, because TRN minus TRN minus 1 gives you marginal revenue. That is why average revenue is equal to marginal revenue. That is why average revenue is equal to marginal revenue, and is equal to demand. This is also the demand curve, is equal to demand curve, and that is why marginal revenue is also horizontal, is also horizontal. Okay. Now if you are putting it on a graph, the same thing you can say, that is, this is the price. Suppose this is the price, this is the average revenue, is equal to marginal revenue, is equal to demand curve, because price is given. Price cannot be changed by the consumer or the sellers. They do not have any influence over the price. They are price takers. So because the individual firm demand or average revenue curve is horizontal on the perfect competition, marginal curve of the revenue curve is also horizontal, and it coincides with the average revenue curve. AR is equal to MR is equal to the demand curve. Now let us take an example. Aggregate demand QD is equal to 25 minus 0.5P. Aggregate supply is equal to 10 plus 1P. Suppose this is the given. Given that the aggregate demand is this, aggregate supply is what? Supply is given. Then we have to find out price and quantity of output produced in a perfectly competitive market. Now in equilibrium, price will be at a point where QS is equal to QD, because aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. That is the market demand, market supply, that is the market price, which cannot be influenced by the individual sellers or buyers. So what will be the price? So 25 minus 0.5P is equal to 10 plus 1.1P, or P is equal to 10. Price is equal to 10. Now industry output at price is equal to 10. We can put it in the supply curve, that is 10 plus 1P. Then that will be equal to 20. If we put it on demand curve, that will also be 25 minus 0.5 into 10. That is equal to your 20. Okay, whichever way you are putting, equilibrium price P is equal to 10 and equilibrium amount of output will be 20. This is a numerical example. Now let us come to the profit maximizing equilibrium in the short run in terms of a graph. Okay, now what is the, look at the graph here. Suppose I'm coming at this point. Suppose price is OP1, price is OP1. Okay, now this is the, you know about average cost curve, marginal cost curve, average variable cost curve. You know that this is the minimum point of marginal cost curve, this is the minimum point of average variable cost curve. Is happening now. This is the minimum point here. Okay, now this is the minimum point here, that is the marginal cost curve is intersecting AC curve. It is also intersecting here. Now you know all this. Now price is given OP1. Price is equal to MR, price is equal to average revenue, that is the demand D1 is equal to MR1. Now look at this, equilibrium condition is MR is equal to MC. MR is equal to MC. Now if that is the situation, the output produced is OQ1. Output produced is OQ1. So now the firm is making profit. Why? Because look at AQ1 is the price, OQ1 is the amount sold by the sellers. Now what is the average total average cost here? Average cost is here. So average cost is less than the average revenue. Average cost is less than the average revenue. So there is a profit, sorry, there is a profit here. This is the amount of profit, or we can say supernormal profit. Here at this price, what is happening, that the demand is equal to AR is equal to MR, and the farms are having enjoying supernormal profit because average revenue is higher than average cost, or total revenue OP1AQ1, that is total revenue. Total cost is equal to, suppose give the name something else, X, suppose this is Y, you can give. So OXYQ1 is the total cost, and total profit is P1XYA. Okay. Now here this the farms are enjoying supernormal profit. Now suppose in the market it is supernormal profit, so other farms will be entering into the market. um, that is in the short run the farm is enjoying supernormal profit. Then what will happen, suppose let us say that price is becoming at price is becoming OP2. If price is OP2, look at this, MC is equal to MR here, and that is D, this is MR is equal to AR, that price is equal to MC is equal to MR here. Equilibrium amount of output is OQ2. Equilibrium amount of output is OQ2. But look at this point here, RQ2 is the average cost, but CQ2 is the average revenue. So what is happening here? Total cost, if you are taking a parallel line here, sorry. Now, this is the total cost, this rectangle is the total, let us give the name Z, and ZRQ2O is the total cost, and total revenue is P2CQ2O or OP2CQ2. Now here cost is higher than your revenue. But even though total cost is higher than total revenue, the farm will stay in the market because here the farm is actually covering average variable cost, that is CD per unit of output. So here the average variable cost is CD per unit of output, and what the farm is losing, only the total fixed cost, because this is the total cost RQ2 minus your average variable cost is DQ2, then rest is becoming your RD is becoming fixed cost. Part of it is actually lost. Next CD is there, per unit CD cost, fixed cost is actually covered by the farm. So here in this case, the farm though having a loss will stay in the market because here the average variable cost is covered. Now let us come to another situation where price is OP3. Look at this, it is going below and MC is equal to MR here, and total output will be produced is OQ3. Here the average variable cost is SQ3. Obviously average total cost is here, it is this loss here, lot of loss here, but this much is the change in, that is sorry not change, that the less in average variable cost. So total variable cost is not covered here though. So at price OP3, the total variable cost of the farm is not covered. So what the farm will do, farm will go out of the market. This is not convenient for the farm will quit the market. Okay, so if supernormal profit, farm will stay. If there is profit is covering average variable cost, though the total cost is not covered, still there is a loss and still the farm will stay because average variable cost is covered. If average variable price is less than average variable cost, where the average variable cost cannot be covered, then the farm will go out of the industry. Now here there is a loss which cannot be recouped or which cannot be converted into profit in the later situation also. So the farm will quit. Now in the book it is given the condition for it is given P is greater than ABC, but actually it is P is greater than ABC. So condition of equilibrium is equal to MC is equal to MR, that is number one, and MC curve must cut MC curve must cut the MR curve from below. That is MC curve cuts MR from below. You can write that from below, and P must be greater than or equal to. That means any price up to this level, any price up to this level, that is the lowest ABC minimum point, any price up to that level, the farm will stay in the market. And if it is below that, then what is happening? The price, it is not average variable, sorry, total variable cost is not covered. So that is why the farm will go from the market. So now in the first case, what we found, that is in case of price P2. In case of P1, there is no problem. The farm is enjoying supernormal profit, so no problem. But when the price is coming to OP2, then the loss is equal to the amount of total fixed cost. Look at that, total fixed cost and total variable cost. Fixed cost is RC, that is, sorry, fixed cost is RD, and DQ2 is the variable cost, and part of RD, part of his fixed cost, that is per unit I am discussing, part of it can be covered. So loss would thus be equal to total fixed cost here in this example. So it is actually, loss is not total, part of the total fixed cost is covered, can be covered here, this particular example. Okay, now what happens here, the farm is in a position, in this particular situation, the farm is in a position to cover all its variable cost and still has CD times the number of units Q2, CD multiplied by OQ2, that is left over to pay part of its fixed cost. Okay, so this way the farm suffers a smaller loss when it continues to produce production, and it is not going to shut down. But in case of V3, the price is below average variable cost at every level of output. The short run loss minimizing output is zero. So that is why the farm will go out of the market. So P must be the equilibrium condition, a profit maximizing equilibrium of a competitive farm in the short run is MC is equal to MR. MC must cut MR from below, and P must be greater than equal to average variable cost. Now, let us see what is the profit maximizing output in the long run. So in the long run, we know that all costs are variable. So manager can choose any particular plant size required to produce, any plant size required to produce the efficient level of output that will maximize its profit. So the plant size or scale of operation is fixed in the short run, but in the long run it has enough time, so it can be altered to suit the economic conditions. In the long run, the farm attempts to maximize profits in the same manner just as in the short run, except that here there is no fixed cost. But what will happen here is that again the farm will have to take the price as given, and the market price will be decided by market forces, and that will be taken as the marginal revenue for the farm. Now the farm would increase its output as long as the marginal revenue from each additional unit is greater than the marginal cost, that is MR is greater than MC. Now it would decrease the output when margin MC is less than MR. So this way the farm maximizes profit by equating MR is equal to MC. That condition is there. Now look at this diagram here. What you find is that here in this particular case, suppose 17 was the price. So demand was equal to MR was equal to 17. There is a point B, there is a point B dash. These two are break-even points. That means when the farm is producing 20 output, the farm can cover its cost. And when the farm is producing 290 units of output, then the farm also can cover its cost. So 20 to 290 is the range where it can the farm can it can yield some economic profit to the farm. But B and B1, B1 and B1 are the break-even points. But where the farm is going to be in equilibrium, that is MC is equal to MR, and MC curve is cutting the MR curve from below, that is S. Okay, now S is the equilibrium point. Now here the producer is going to produce 240 units of output. Okay, so now the farm earns the maximum profit at 240 units of output. Now at this point, now you can find out that is SR. Total profit is 17, sorry, total revenue is equal to 17 into 240, and total cost is equal to 12, because that is cutting the point R, that is R, that is equal to your 12. So your total revenue is equal to 17 multiplied by 240, and that is equal to 17 into 240, that is actually coming 4080. I have done it in the next slide, but let us see. Now 12 into 240 is the cost. This is the total revenue, and this is the total cost. Okay. Now here 12, that's the total cost. So profit is this one. Profit is this one is the supernormal profit in this particular example. This is the profit. Okay. Now 4080 minus that is 2880. This is 2880, and that is giving you the profit is that is giving you 1200, or you can write down 17 minus 12 into 240, that is equal to 5 into 240. This is equal to 100, 1200. You can calculate this way, and graphically you can say that is you can say OURV. OURV is the cost, and OTSV is the total revenue, and total revenue minus total cost. This is this point is, this is T, and this is U. This is U, and the total profit is equal to TURS. You can say that way also. Graphically also you can say, or OTSV is the total revenue. Yes. Now UTSR is your profit. Okay. Now what will happen is that the farm would operate at a scale, in such a scale such that long run marginal cost equals price. Now what will happen here is that the other farms will enter to the market. Other farms will enter to the market because long run, and this system will go on, this procedure will go on till the price is tangent to the long run average cost curve at its lowest point, at its lowest point. Now here total revenue is equal to 10 multiplied by 140, and total cost is equal, because here the cost curve is tangent, and MC is equal to MR. At this point there is 2 points, one is here, one is here. MC is equal to MR. So what is happening when the farms are entering is long run, and the farms can change scales, the farms can change the production capabilities. So what will happen is that because of the supernormal profit, other farms are entering into the market, and this will become the line that is tangent, that is the price line, and that will happen, that is total revenue is equal to total cost. Total revenue is equal to total cost at this point, or at 140 unit of output, total revenue is equal to total cost. So profit is zero, economic profit is zero, that is known as normal profit. So every farm will be enjoying normal profit in the long run, because there is no barrier to the entry of new farms for that reason. So in our example here, the amount of revenue is equal to 10 into 140, that is 1400. Amount of cost is also equal to 1400. Now look at the situation here. The output per farm is actually getting reduced. It is price is getting reduced, and output is also getting reduced. Now what is happening here is that you find that this procedure will go on when all economic profits are eliminated. What is left is only normal profit. That means TR is equal to TC. TR is equal to TC. So this I had written it here. The farm maximizes profit by equating this, you know, that is marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So So this profit is variously known as above normal, supernormal. I told you supernormal profit. That is also known as above normal or economic profit. Economic profit is basically as long as revenue is greater than cost. Any profit that is in economic sense, that is called profit, economic profit. Why we say economic profit? Because we have already discussed that profit from economics point of view definition is different. Okay, so when a farm, whether a farm is in a perfectly competitive industry can continue to make positive economic profit even in the long run? No, the farm can go for normal profit, that is TR is equal to TC. This result derives from the assumption that in a perfectly competitive market there are no barriers to entry. Nobody is barred or nobody is restricted from entering into the market. For that reason, other farms will be lured by the supernormal profits of the existing farms and they will try to enter, and this procedure will go on till it is actually normal profit. So the situation will change with other prospective entrants in the industry. So you can read this one. So economic profit attract new farms into the industry whose entry increases industry supply. As a result, prices would fall and the farms in the industry adjust their output levels in order to remain at profit maximization level. The procedure will continue, or the process continues until all economic profits are eliminated. There is no longer any attraction for new farms to enter since they can only earn normal profit. Similarly, if there is economic loss, the industry supply will decline. Now, if supply is declining, it will push the market price up, and if the price is up, all the industry will be adjusting their output level in order to remain at a profit maximization level. Farms will continue to exit until the economic losses are eliminated and economic profit becomes zero or normal profit. That is, farms are normal profit. And so, whatever the situation, in the long run, a perfectly competitive farm cannot earn supernormal profit. It can earn zero economic profit or it can earn normal profit. Now let us come to monopoly. Monopoly is the other extreme. I have already discussed it last all units. Also, we are discussing about the structure of the market and what types of market, etc. So monopoly, we know that is we discussed that there is the production. The product has no close substitute. You cannot say that the product or other products are available. In perfectly competitive market, what the products are perfectly substitutable. Every product is identical, but in monopoly he is producing only one type of product which is not produced by anybody else. So market structure characteristic is it is a single seller. Buyers on specified buyers can be one, buyers can be many buyers can be large number. Like when take the example of railways, that is a single seller, railway is the single seller, and buyers are in millions. Now, product differentiation, there is no close substitutes. Condition of entry and exit is totally prohibited or extremely difficult entry. Entry is so difficult that it is better not to enter. It's like that situation. So though perfect competition and monopoly are the two extreme cases of market structure, they both have one thing in common. They do not have to compete with other individual participants in the market. Okay, in perfect competition, they are not competing with the fellow sellers because price is given. In monopolist, is not competing because he is the king. Okay, now sellers in perfect competition are so small that they can ignore each other. On the other extreme, monopolist is the only seller in the market, so it doesn't have any competitor. The market or industry demand curve and that of the individual farm are the same under monopoly, since the industry consists of only one farm. That means here the farm is the industry, you can say that way. Managers of farms in a perfectly competitive market face a horizontal demand curve. They do not have any control over price. They simply choose the profit maximizing output. But in case of monopoly, monopolist faces a downward sloping demand curve. Monopolist has the power to control the price of its product. If the demand for the product remains unchanged, the monopoly firm can raise the price as much as it wishes by reducing its output. On the other hand, if monopolist firm wishes to sell a larger quantity of its product, it must lower the price because total supply in the market will increase to the extent that its output increases. That is why average revenue curve is downward sloping. It is downward sloping because if price is increasing, quantity is less. If price is reduced, quantity supplied will be more. That is why the monopolist has control over that, so it can increase the supply, it can increase the price by reducing the supply, it can reduce the price by increasing the supply. So he has the freedom. So while an individual firm under perfect competition is a price taker, monopolist obviously is a price maker. It may, however, be noted that to have price setting power, a monopolist must not only be the sole seller of the product, but also sell a product which does not have close substitute. That means there will be one producer and the product has no close substitute. Nobody else is producing that product. Then only you can go for that, the monopolist will be a price maker. Now, profit maximizing output of a monopoly farm. Here, as I told you, that it faces a downward sloping average revenue curve and obviously marginal revenue curve. It is a derivation from total revenue curve, that is average revenue curve is falling. So, marginal revenue curve is also a downward sloping curve. So, average revenue curve is the demand curve. Average revenue curve is the demand curve, that is the price. Here price is equal to average revenue is equal to demand curve. Marginal revenue curve will be below it. Marginal revenue curve is also downward sloping. So a monopolist will certainly charge a high price, but it must also ensure that it is maximizing profit. A profit maximizing monopolist firm determines its output at that level where its marginal cost curve intersects its downward sloping marginal revenue curve from below. MC is equal to MR. MC cuts MR from below. The MC curve of the monopoly firm is always below the average revenue or the demand curve at all levels of output. And so the equilibrium output level marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. The profit maximizing monopoly price is greater than the marginal cost. Price is always greater than the marginal cost. Since the demand curve of the monopoly firm is above the firm's average cost curve, the price at equilibrium output is always greater than the average cost curve. A cost curve is always greater than the average cost curve. Now, so what will happen here is that the supernormal profit is the distinguishing feature of equilibrium under monopoly. Monopolist is going to have supernormal profit because he has control over the market. Though it faces a downward sloping average revenue curve and marginal revenue curve. For that reason, and it has control over the price, and that is why it will continue to get supernormal profit. So supernormal profit is a distinguishing feature of equilibrium under monopoly. The farm would enjoy such profit even in the long run because no other farms can enter. He is the sole producer. Now perfect competition, we said MC is equal to MR. MC must be cutting the MR from below and price is greater than equal to ABC. But here we are not going to discuss price because here price is always greater than marginal cost and the monopolist is enjoying supernormal profit. Now let us come to the graph. This is the graph here. The y-axis is your price, MR, MC, MC, etc. DD1 is the demand curve. DD1 is the demand curve or average revenue curve. This is also known as what is demanded by the people is the average revenue curve for the producer. Now this is the marginal revenue curve. This is the average revenue curve of the monopolist, and it is the MC curve is the it should have gone from the minimum here. Don't do like this diagram. It should go to like minimum. MC curves intersects. This is the minimum point. Suppose MC curves intersect. It will be go like this, or you can take. You can add here. You can add here also like this. Okay, it should go here. Okay, go through the minimum point. It is becoming little extreme right. Anyway, the condition is that MC is equal to MR. Now here MC is equal to MR. So equilibrium output is OQ and the price is OP or RQ, and revenue is POPRQ, and cost is OCK. Here average cost, it is cutting K at that point. That means you are going like this, you are going this is the minimum point, this is the MR, this is the AR. Now this is the situation. So here this is MC is equal to MR. Now you are going for the straight line there. Okay, now it is cutting the average cost curve at this point, and you can do this way. The diagram is first cut this MC is equal to MR, then extend that line RQ, let it cut with the x-axis, let it cut the AC curve, then that is your AC. So OCKQ is the total cost. Now revenue is equal to, the profit is equal to, this is supernormal profit. This is supernormal profit for the monopolist. The monopolist can reduce the price. The monopolist can, if the price is reduced, then the monopolist can um, go for more output. But that it won't do like that. It will always increase the price and reduce the output this side, because it will always try to enjoy supernormal profit. So in case of perfectly competitive market, they do not have any control over price. So that is why price is changing. Here the monopolist can increase the price by reducing the quantity of output produced, and the profit level will increase in that way. So what we are saying, that is supernormal profit is PCKR. If you just go through the book, then next part is we're going to discuss is, that is monopoly power. That is one of this very unique situation in case of your mm, monopoly. On the perfect competition, price is equal to marginal cost and profits are normal in the long run. But under monopoly, price is always greater than the marginal cost and profits are above normal even in the long run. Therefore, the monopolist has the power to charge a price which is higher than marginal cost and earn supernormal profit. The extent of monopoly power of a firm can be calculated in terms of how much price is greater than marginal cost. So P minus MC, that gives you the monopoly power. There is a formula here. Economist AP Lerner devised such an index to measure the degree of monopoly power, and which has come to be known as the Lerner index. According to this index, the monopoly of power of a firm is mu. Mu is equal to P minus MC by P. P is the price of the firm's product. MC is equal to firm's marginal cost. But we know that at equilibrium output, MC is equal to MR, that we know. And from the relationship between MR and AR, we know that MR is equal to P into 1 minus 1 by E, because P is equal to average revenue. Now just substituting that in the formula, that is here P minus MC by P, implies mu is equal to P minus MC is equal to MR. You can write down divided by P is equal to P by P is equal to 1 minus MR by P. And but MR by P is equal to, from the second one here you can find out, that is MR is equal to, here MR is equal to P minus 1 by E. So you can find out MR by P is equal to 1 minus 1 by E. From here you can find out from 1 minus 1 by P, because MR is equal to P into 1 minus 1 by E. Now MR by P is equal to 1 minus 1 by E. So mu is equal to 1 minus 1 minus bracket 1 minus 1 by E. So the monopoly here, you can say this is the monopoly power. This is the elasticity of demand. So monopoly power of a firm is inversely related to the elasticity of demand for its product. That means if the elastic is highly inelastic, then the monopoly power is higher. In the real world, we find some essential goods and services like saving medicines, petroleum, cooking gas, railways. They enjoy a high degree monopoly power because the demand for these products is highly inelastic. And if it is less inelastic, then that case monopoly power will be, if it is inelastic, that is high, and if it is elastic, then monopoly power is low. But usually monopoly power is very high. So left to itself, the mono. So what is the problem here? Why we are discussing? Because if we are leaving everything to monopolist, what they will do? They will just increase the price. They will try to produce inelastic products, and the price will increase. But that is not the social objectives of the government and policymakers. In government, we always want welfare of the people. People should get things at a lower price. There should not be any inequality. These objectives cannot be fulfilled if everything is left to monopolies. So left to itself, the monopoly could increase the price of such inelastic products at rate which does not meet the social objectives of the government and policymakers. So government intervention is necessary in this situation, because railway ticket prices are fixed by the government and electricity tariffs are also regulated by the government. Now welfare, perfect competition versus monopoly. Now we can make out, you can very well say that monopoly is not actually, it is not leading to welfare of the people. If there is a if there is a monopolist market, and things are produced by one single producer and one unique product, nobody else is producing, and the demand is inelastic, then that is not good for the society or good for the welfare of the society. So in a pure competition or pure monopoly, in a pure monopoly, price will generally be greater than marginal cost, and that the farm is able to generate supernormal profit at the expense of, well, whose profit is taking, or whose consumer surplus is taken away by the seller, that is the monopolist. Monopolist will squeeze the whatever consumer surplus the consumers have, and they will take it, and the welfare of the consumers and society, it's not actually going to be improved even in the long run. So what are the main reasons? That is the economies of scale and barriers to entry. But in case of competitive markets, you know that the price is actually going towards the marginal cost. And so it is relatively easy to enter the market. Capital requirements are low, sunk costs are low. So here competition ensures that prices are set right. And moreover, the threat of entry ensures that prices never exceed long run average cost. Long run average cost. Competitions also ensures that price equals long run marginal cost, because I told you MC is equal to MR, price is equal to AR is equal to MR. So in the long run, price is equal to long run MR is equal to long run long run MR is equal to long run MC. So price equal to long run MC and equal to long run MR. Hence, price of the good accurately reflects the opportunity cost of manufacturing it. But in a situation of monopoly, the economies of scale to be exploited when one company meets the market demand. There are typically also major barriers to entry in such industries, monopolist industries. Now, the size and capital intensities often they put particular strain on private capital markets in satisfying their investment needs. Now, again, it is also characterized by huge scale economies. Governments have rarely seen it as their role to regulate companies in these industries. Left to themselves, they will always charge monopoly prices, and they will try to reduce the output. Now, if all costs can be passed on to the consumers, the cost of production, whatever little bit, that will be actually passed to the consumers, and there will be little incentive for managers to keep them under control. If competition exists in market, then that is the best regulation. If it does not, and the industry is envisaged to play a social role, regulation of monopoly becomes an important policy objective. Now look at this, that is evaluation of monopoly. Look at this diagram, and you find here that consumer surplus, but the consumer was willing to pay, that is, this is O, this is O, willing to pay OA amount. The demand curve is this, and price is, suppose monopoly price, that is, this is a perfectly competitive market, price is this. So that is MC is equal to AC at this point. MC is equal to AC. price, that is here you find that MR is equal to MC at this point, and you find that surplus was A, P, C, D. That was the consumer surplus in the beginning. Now, if it is going to a monopolist will increase the price and reduce the quantity supplied. Okay. Now, monopolist price is OPM. Now, the consumers are paying OPM amount and they are going to buy less also from the market. Now, here consumer surplus is becoming APMB. Now, this amount of PCPMB, and suppose this is E, this amount is actually income that is transferred to the monopolist, and here the it is reduced, consumer surplus is reduced. Consumer surplus was APC, that is, and D. It was earlier consumer surplus. Now, in case of monopolist, it will be APMB. It will be reduced to consumer surplus will be reduced. Price is increased, quantity supply is decreased. Now, this amount, that is, since the monopolist is reducing the production, now it is production is reduced. So that is this amount is remaining idle in the I mean, the nothing is done about that, and it is not going to the consumers. That is why that is known as dead weight loss. That part is known as dead weight loss. So that is the rectangle PCPMBC is the part of consumer surplus under competition is now economic profit for the monopolist. PCPM, this part is the income transfer, that is the economic profit of the monopolist. Now, economic profit represents income distribution from consumers to producers. There is also a deadweight loss to the society. The area represented by BCD, it represents a loss of consumer surplus that accrued under competition, but it is lost to the society because of lower production level under monopoly. If perfect competition had there been perfect competition, then that would have gone to the consumer surplus. Now it is known as the deadweight loss. It is not going to the consumer. No, it is actually remaining idle. That much of output could have been produced if there was perfect competition in the market. So this is the problem here. Consumer surplus is less in this case. So for that reason, we study whether the monopoly is better or the perfect competition is better from welfare point of view. Now, implications of perfect competition and monopoly for managerial decision making. Here, normally a majority of modern industries operate under conditions of oligopoly or monopolistic competition. There is neither perfect competition nor monopoly. But why we study? Because it is useful to think of perfect competition and pure monopoly as two extremes with other market structures placed in between. There are many industries that have most of these characteristics of perfect competition or monopoly. So these two extremes, why we study? Because they serve as benchmarks and provide guidance in making decisions, particularly by policymakers. So the primary background necessary for understanding the pricing decision is a good understanding of the law of demand. That is, price goes up, demand goes down. So some understanding of the amount by which a price increase affects a quantity decrease, that is price elasticity of demand. So the law of demand and price elasticity of demand. Alfred Marshall used a fish market as an example of perfect competition, that you can go through the book and you can find out that how the fish market is operating. The sellers cannot increase the price because nobody is going to buy from them if they are increasing the price. But if they are reducing the price, then others are also reducing the price, or the consumers are coming to them and others are also, maybe they will reduce the price much more than the individual seller's price. But anyway, as we have already told, that market decides what is the price in case of perfect competition. So that part is a perfectly competitive market that can be studied. Now, setting the price correctly, monopolists can sell the exact number of units so that the cost of selling one additional unit exactly equals the revenues of selling the additional unit. In the long run, if a monopolist cannot cover his overhead cost by pricing in the optimal manner, then he should shut down. This is important. He has to cover his overhead cost. Now, a farm is a monopoly if it has exclusive control over the supply of a product. Therefore, monopolist in her pricing decision cannot consider the pricing decision of rival farms. The smart monopolist considers the incremental effect of his decision, what is the revenue to be received, and what are the costs. If the cost of selling one additional unit of a produced product exceeds the revenues, the monopolist would certainly not want to sell that additional output. So the law of demand says that she or he could raise the price of his product and thus sell less. Alternatively, if the revenues of selling an additional unit of a product exceed the cost of selling that unit, the monopolist should want to sell more units. So by setting the price correctly, the monopolist can sell the exact number of units such that the cost of selling one additional unit exactly equals the revenues of selling the additional unit, which by the above reasoning is the only optimal price. There is an example of pricing decision. I have done it in terms of A and B. This you can go through. In the book, it is B and C. But here the pricing decision strategy is little different. That is, I have given it written it for your convenience. And look at this. Here the strategy did, which was taken up by the soft drink company A, that is actually without cutting the B's price, without cutting the or without forcing B to cut its price. So you just go through these two, and we can find it out. And let me tell you one thing, that the price elasticity of demand faced by soft drink company A depends upon soft drink company B's response to the price cut and the consumer's responses. I have given it in the terms of A and B. In the book, it is B and P and C. So A counted on a highly elastic consumer response, and that is why it could charge that is charged for 12. I have underlined those areas. Pricing of 6 ounce was 5 rupees. Then this fellow A's, what he did is actually he started pricing 12-ounce bottles at 5 cents also, and A made the bet, that is SBI bet, and that we would not cut his price. So this is the way you can say. So that means the example of this particular example gives us idea that this is what type of market, what is the strategy of the farm, that is something A, to increase its own profit. Now summary part I am not going, that's already time. I think summary I have written it, you can just go through it, pause this thing and go through it in the book. So basically we discussed about perfect competition and monopoly, and we just found that in perfect competition, in the short run there is a profit, but in the long run there is no profit. But in case of monopoly, monopolist can have supernormal profit in the long run also. Monopolist can control the price, monopolist can increase the price, can reduce the quantity supplied in the market. But monopolist attitude or the monopolist market, prevalence of that type of market is not good from the welfare point of view. What we have to do is that find out the market situation which are more towards perfectly competitive market, or price is more towards marginal cost, and that way we can discuss in real world what is happening. Tomorrow we are going to discuss that. Thank you.